Hey, boys and girls, weather report for November 4th, 2021. Today, I'm 25,890 days old. It's my birthday. Again.
That's incredible. Congratulations.
Yeah, I haven't decided on my death today. I think today it'll be aneurysm. Choose an aneurysm. So
that's always that's a popular one.
That's a popular one, yeah. I like. Yeah.
What is that? That's the way you want to die?
No. I just every day I imagine a way for me to die, because when I was flying to Austin, I imagined crashing in a plane and I got ready for it. I was ready for it.
Yeah.
And then on Monday, on my 25,888th day, I was in Texas at my brother's. So I decided rattlesnake bite was going to be my death of the day. I'm just picking ways to die every day, because Carlos Castaneda, his mentor, Don Juan, back in the 60s, where it was kind of a series of hippie books. He always said that you always live with death sitting right next to you. You shouldn't be surprised by death. You should always keep your mortality with you constantly. And I kind of agree with that. I mean, it's not a morbid thing. It's just, because then if it happens, you'd be like, haha, it's funny. It really happened. It's just a fucking hoot. And then I was talking to Scott on the phone, and I was in Texas, and I was outside my brother's lawn. I was picking weeds. I found some interesting grass, and I thought, oh fuck! I told him I was gonna get bit by a rattlesnake. I better go back in the house. So I went back in the house. I don't know.
Well, none of that happened, so we're all cheated out of that.
Yeah, well,
you didn't crash the plane. You didn't.
Oh, we still have today.
Yeah.
No, today it's going to be my oak tree falling on me, because we got a dead oak tree out back. That'd be great.
That's what gave us Governor Abbott here in Texas, was a tree or a limb fell on him and he became crippled.
Yep.
And now he's in a wheelchair, but he's still a jerk.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with him being in a wheelchair.
You think dropping a tree on you would make you a nicer person,
but no.
Yep. So what do we got here? Evolution soup.
Yeah, it's something I ran across, and other people may have already found it, but he does these really nice, lengthy interviews with various scholars of, doctors, PhDs, of evolution and all that. Like I've been watching several of his interviews about like Homo floresiensis, Homo erectus, Neanderthal. I think I did an Australopithecus one, and they're pretty thorough, pretty in depth, and of course they deal with other species and things like that as well. So it's just a good source for information about evolution.
Yeah,
take a look at when plants rule the earth.
The early hominid stuff I like. That's always really interesting. The Neanderthals and stuff like that. How the fact that we're the only hominid species left, and that's kind of interesting. It really is interesting.
I'm not playing the sound, but this is just kind of the
Ellie Baumgartner.
Actually, I think that's the guy that hosts it right there.
Okay.
So anyway, just something for people to check out.
Well, jog ahead a little bit. Let's see what some of the graphics and what they're talking about. Okay, paleobotanist. Ellie Baumgartner. That's cool. So he interviews like scientists, right?
Yeah, he's interviewing scientists like the guy who. Okay, what? Oh, there was a guy who talked about But he basically it's interviews, but there's some graphics interweaved here and there. The graphics aren't that big of a part of the interviews and stuff. But like today, he was talking to this one guy that he studies the potential characteristics of the last common ancestor between chimps and humans, trying to ascertain what they were likely like, and that affects, I guess, the way that they look for them out in the field or something. But yeah, it was a really good breakdown of the way they use their hands and their bipedality and things like that. So it was a good hour spent.
Yeah.
I happened to catch a video the other day on T-Rexes. They were, I think they had dug up a cousin type, I can't remember the name of it, of T-Rex, and they would, talking about the T-Rex and then the cousins of them. They're not sure if some of these other species are actual cousins or not or whatever. And I found it interesting, the stuff that they, the great lengths that these scientists go through, the studies that they do, getting into these, and they're very, of course, very specialized, right? A lot of these people will specialize in who's the woman that what's her name that found the whatever she found the did she find DNA or whatever it was in
soft tissue?
Yeah, the soft tissue. Yeah,
Mary Schweitzer.
Schweitzer. Yeah, she happened to be on it, and she was talking about it. It was really interesting how she come up with that when she originally cut open that bone and found that was, she discovered that the section that she found in there was coincided with like chickens being pregnant or about to lay eggs, and that was I don't know, there's some sort of marrow or something in the bone that's in there for that. That's,
I think I heard iron is around it. It preserves it.
Yeah, there's a certain part of the tissue inside the bone that's it's in there when it's obviously it's a female, and it's about to it's about to lay eggs, basically. And she found that, and so that was the original thing that she found, because she saw that. She said, "Oh my God, I know what this is." She did more study, and then she dissolved it, in the acids and basically whatever they liquefied it or however they did it. And then it was, still stretchy and plastic, it had some of that feature to it. And they're like, oh, so that was how it was originally discovered. But just the great lengths of what she went through and what they go through to do these studies, I found is fascinating. But yet, one thing it makes you think of is these young Earth creationists. It's like, these people really get into some pretty technical stuff and really get into some deep study with this stuff. And it's like, you guys throw it all out the window. They're all full of shit, and none of this is true. And I don't know. I just
the thing that blows me away when I hear them come up with one of the ridiculous ideas about fossils is the amount, when you read the papers and you look at what they actually do in order to figure out all of these little structures in a fossil,
right?
And all the comparative anatomy that they do.
Yeah,
and none of that, they don't do justice to any of that. And
right. Yeah. Right. Like you said, they compare it to so many other different species and try to link all different things. And, just the great lengths of study that they go through to do what they do.
Yeah.
And it's like, these creationists are just, they're just making shit up. And like,
they think the scientists are biased. So
it's just so disrespectful.
Disregard it all.
Yeah. 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 I don't know. Yeah, you listen to Rebecca and some of the stuff that she just doesn't, like I said, my take on that interview with Sal is she was looking for things to validate what she believes, any little scrap of evidence for God, like that, or at least what looks like evidence to her is what she was looking for. She wasn't looking for anything, you know, she wasn't looking for anything else, or where she wasn't looking for where the actual evidence leads you. She was just looking, because I remember one of the questions that she asked was, oh yeah, tell me the controversy, or tell me some of the arguments with this stuff. For those were the questions she was asking, not, you know, not, she wasn't interested really so much in the actual subject itself, you know. So
yeah, so Gerst Dreams is apparently trying to steal viewers, so he's
in here directly trying to steal.
yeah, and we got 14 and he's got 11. He had 15 when we started. Now he's got 11 and we got 14. So Gur, you're irrelevant. Stop it. Your attempts at one-upping me are embarrassing you. He's probably not listening because he's on a stream.
That could be true. Now, what I've got up on the screen right here, Speed. Just wanted to let everybody notice that tomorrow at 12:30 Central. You know, if you've had your lunch, you stuffed yourself, or want to watch something that's not sports ball related while you stuff yourself with your turkey dinner or whatever you have in your family or your family like group of friends, you may want to tune in for the Duplicitous Scholarship of Michael Jones. Was Genesis stolen from pagan myths, which is a response video to a video where Inspiring Philosophy denied that there was borrowing in Genesis from essentially the pagan myths in the zeitgeist, in the culture, embedded in the cultures around Mesopotamia and the Levant, which is the area of Israel and Syria and places like that. So that should be a good one. Of course, it's Dr. Josh as well as Kip Davis on Kip Davis's channel. They're both outstanding scholars, and it should be very interesting. And there's a link. If you go to this particular page, the links are provided. There's a link in the description on that page to the original video that they are critiquing. So they'll be doing a really nice takedown, I expect.
So Michael Jones, is he a philosopher? He's inspiring philosophy.
He's inspiring. So I don't know what his credentials are.
Okay.
Maybe
but
some of our
I wonder why
people on the side chat would know.
I wonder why why he's saying the duplicitous scholarship, or is he? Yeah. Well,
he is an apologist.
Yeah, and Leo would on quantum mechanics. Leo would definitely call him duplicitous.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he has a master's in something. I can't remember what it is. I'm pretty sure he doesn't have a PhD, inspiring philosophy, but I think he has a master's, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Well, they've done some takedowns of him before, and and he's just either a little too slick or a little too neglectful in his scholarship.
Yeah. Leo knows him pretty good. I know that. He knows more about him than I do.
So on Gur Irrelevant stream, we talked a little bit about Rebecca, and I kind of got into it with Danny on methodological naturalism. I was hoping that Gur would have the decency to end the stream, and Jason would come over and talk a little bit about it, because he had a take on methodological naturalism. And I was thinking about, how Rebecca says that all the evolutionists, in their papers, they assume evolution.
Yeah.
And now let's think about that for a minute. Okay, why would they have to assume evolution in order to write a paper on the particularly tiny little area of the science that they're investigating? They're doing research, they're getting, empirical results from the research they're doing, and they're making a conclusion based on that, or testing a hypothesis. And then where are they assuming evolution? I mean, what does it even have to do with proving evolution or assuming evolution up front. Now, just because, let's say they're investigating a cell membrane and they're investigating a protein that's embedded in the membrane, and they're trying to figure out exactly how that works. The protein gets a signal on the outside of the cell, and something happens to the protein and it changes its structure, and it has an effect on the inside of the cell, right? So they're trying to figure that out. And then that something that it changes ends up going into the nucleus and changing something about, the cell. So I guess she was talking about, so papers on evolution. So we would be trying to figure out, where did that little protein come from in the membrane? How could it have happened? And then we would go out with genetics and we look for comparable proteins in other organisms that are, existing today. And we would try to go back and do a phylogeny and figure out whether or not there was something more primitive that gave rise to both of them, right? So you don't really, I don't think the person that writes the paper is sitting there thinking evolution, Darwinism. I think he's working on a protein. I don't know.
So what I noticed that whenever the young Earth creationists or anybody like that is talking about evolution or hears about it, they always think of macro evolution. So they're not thinking the small steps.
Yeah.
So they get triggered, so they can't really get out of it. So then they keep on denying everything almost.
Yeah, but if you came into
abiogenesis sometimes too.
But if you came into it and you said, okay, God did it, God created these two different species, you wouldn't have a paper. You wouldn't be thinking about it. You'd be done. You'd be through.
Right. I was going to mention that. Yeah. I mean, so many people were questioning Rebecca, and I was going to mention that yesterday, but I didn't really get a chance to that. Yeah. But yeah. I mean, a lot of these, of course, the young earthers, right? They would not like nothing more than, or they would love it if they could somehow disprove evolution, or at least beat it down, keep people questioning it. I mean, that's really what they want. I mean, I think a lot of them wouldn't admit that, but I think deep down, it's just another way to.
But
keep their belief strong, right? Keep validating
this rhetoric
belief, right?
that all of our papers are invalid because we started doing the paper with the intent,
right,
by presupposing evolution, and that made us bad thinkers, and therefore our paper's invalid. Well, if the paper is about finding some commonality between two different species, that's not invalid. That's empirical. We can see that, right? And their rhetoric about, oh, well, God designed it that way because God wanted to, would, like, okay, if you've got two proteins that are somewhat different, but they do exactly the same thing in two separated species like cats and dogs, right? Okay, so the scientist looks at those two different proteins and compares them and finds the differences, and then figures out how many mutations were necessary for that. And we know a little bit about molecular clocks, so they go back and say, well, there may have been a common ancestor here. But the thing is, they're looking at those differences, and they're also looking at the function of the protein and saying it does exactly the same thing, right? So if you look at the idea of, oh, well, God just did it, so why are you even bothering to think about it or compare the two at all? But if you compare the two and there are differences that don't make a difference, you have to ask yourself, why did God do that? Did God have a dull pencil? Did he make a mistake? Why did he do those two things? Well, they could counter by saying, well, those differences are really functional. We just don't know that, we don't know what they do yet. And I guess that would be a valid criticism of what we're doing. I don't know. It just confuses me, this idea of bias, because when I study how something evolved, if I didn't think it evolved at all, I wouldn't be studying it. But when I study how something evolved, I don't know how it evolved. That's why I'm studying it, right? Now, if I just assumed that it evolved, I said, oh yeah, I know it evolved. Well, in that case, I wouldn't study it either. So in a lot of ways, the average atheist who is not a biologist and is not, driven to study these things may assume evolution based on the consensus, right? But I don't do that. And I don't think anybody that writes a paper does that. We don't assume we know how something evolved because we don't. So we look into it. You know what I mean? So it just seems like the idea of intelligent design and creationism stops research dead in its tracks in the same way that it would if I just said, oh, I know it evolved. I really don't care how it happened. I just know that it happened naturally. So I don't really care what the mechanism is, right? I mean, that would stop scientists too.
Which is why I think when talking to a creationist, you should change your approach. I mean, we should change our approach. I think that over the years it has become clear that explaining the things we already know through science doesn't work. So instead of doing that, let's not have a double standard. Let the creationist explain how it happened if God created it. So let them bring papers on how creation could have happened, how God created. Did he use source materials? Did he just think them into being? And if so, how would that happen?
Did he use intermediary eons from his eternal greatness down to our miserable and vile particularness?
Well, it sounds a little bit crazy, but if and they will automatically say, well, it's a supernatural event. Yes, it is. But that supernatural event turned into something natural. The moment it turns into something natural, we should be able to explore it. We should be able to figure out what happened, at least to the point where it stopped being supernatural, where it came into being, where it was actual natural, a natural event. And if that's not possible, if they can't do that, then they should retract their claim that God did it. And there I stumped the panel.
Yes. You did, Peter.
Of course, to me, anytime you involve the supernatural in describing the natural world, it's just basically it's cutting off inquiry.
It is.
Once you said God did it, even though maybe God didn't do it, you're going to quit looking for the real way that it actually happened.
Okay, Scott, but they're not going to quit looking. They're going to tell you we can't investigate the supernatural, and they're right, because even you would admit that we can't do that. So, but there are parts of a creation by God that we could investigate, because at that time it is entirely natural. So, for instance, take the parting of the seas with Moses. That was a supernatural event, but what happened was entirely natural. It split the seas. So if that is possible, then we would be able to investigate what happened there, what caused the sea to split.
Sorry, guys, my bread was on fire, so I had to run off. I hate when the bread starts on fire.
You burnt your bread?
Yeah.
Your
bread of life?
I was drying croutons for bread of life is on fire. I was drying croutons in the oven, and I turned it on and told my son, "No, we got to remember to turn this off in 5 minutes," and that was 2 hours ago. So
I put it in the chat Rebecca sent me an invite, so I'm really looking forward to having a chat with Rebecca.
You put it in. Oh, you put the link to the thing in chat?
No. We haven't set a date and time yet.
Okay.
But I really appreciate she immediately emailed me earlier today. So I missed
the entire talk about the new approach.
Then,
Yeah,
okay.
Speed missed all that.
I missed all that.
Yeah.
Apparently, answers in atheism isn't worth listening to, according to the host. Let's think that.
Well, when your bread's on fire,
when your bread's on fire, the whole deal's off.
When your bread's on fire, you act upon it, and that doesn't prevent you from listening. But I'll do a recap, Speed.
Well, if I had a tiny little house, I would have been listening. But
what I think is, when you're talking to a creationist, you should even the plane. They will ask you to bring your evidence,
and they should
there are only a few people in our community who return the favor and say, okay, let's pretend everything I say is false. Now bring your evidence.
You didn't hear me ask her that yesterday?
I did hear you asking that, but I think there are not enough people who do that. And from you asking that, it turned back to a conversation about your evidence really quickly.
Yeah,
and
she
this is because,
right back at me. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is for because them. No. This is because we like to tell people what we know.
Right.
And that is okay, but not when talking to a creationist. Then you should turn it around and say, okay, let's pretend everything we tell you is wrong. Now you tell us how it happened, and now you bring us some papers, because that's going to end the conversation really, really quick.
Well, how many times have you been in that situation with Antangelo? And Antangelo, his answer is, "Well, I don't know, and I don't have to explain. Right, I don't have to explain it. I don't know the mechanisms. I don't have to explain it. All that.
Antangelo says, I don't have to explain that. I just know, and I don't have to explain that. And that's a double standard, and that's a double standard we need to attack. Because it's not about the people that we talk to. It is about the people that follow them and think that they are in any way someone to look up to, someone to take hints from. If you can show that they have no answers, that could make people doubt and go look for the actual answers.
They have answers in Genesis.
Exactly.
Well, for them, it's all about believing, not about actual finding out the truth over the most likeliness.
I agree, Top Dog. But for them, it is believing, but they do demand evidence from us when we say we know.
So another question is, why are they so threatened by these scientists that are working on evolution? Because
they think they'll lose their salvation. They think they'll lose their salvation if they believe or understand. Things of real life.
No, that's only a tiny part of Christians that do that, and that is the young Earth creationist part, which is a growing group.
Yeah.
Christianity is on its decline. Young Earth creationism is on the rise, not only in the US, but worldwide, which is why I think we should address that specifically, because that is going to be the threat in the coming years. And they're already interfering with science books, with science textbooks, with definitions within science. In Texas, they've changed the definition so that several fields of pseudoscience are now considered science.
Right. Yeah, now the smoke alarm's going off. Hang on a second.
You heard Sal too. I think Sal even admitted that he's one creationist that admitted, I believe, that if evolution was actually proven according to him, which we of course think it is, but he doesn't. He said it would shake his faith. So, for some it would. If they changed their view on evolution, it probably would. And Rebecca, that's a big part of her too. She said that she had a major issue with that. And that's why she started that other channel. She has her other channel that's, what is the name of it? It has something to do with
Examining evolution.
Examining evolution, right. That was the reason why she did it, because that was kind of part of her, would you call it shaking her faith a little bit? I think that's how she described it. So, and plus, Peter, too, when we're talking about evidence or anything, so if there's any controversy, right, if there's anything we don't know, where do they go, right? They go to abiogenesis, because we don't have the answer for that. They go to the beginning of the universe. We don't have the answer to that, right? So, and then anything in between that, right, anywhere along the line, whether it's in evolution, if we don't have an explanation for every single thing, or if anything has a little controversy, they jump all over it, and that they consider that evidence for their side. Like, it's the whole idea, intelligent
and evidence against our side,
right,
which is even more important.
So they want you to present evidence, and then they want to pick it apart. And then the whole, genetic code, that's evidence for this intelligent design, so that's how they work.
Yesterday, Jason Torn already talked about that, the God of the Gaps kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, 90% of it is, but they always, when you bring that up, they always, oh no, it's not. We're using naturalism of the gaps. That's what they'll say, Ontangelo always says that. That's another Ontangelo one too. So.
Yes.
Yeah, they're hard to argue with.
I was hoping Jason would come in and talk a little bit about methodological naturalism, because he did a slide presentation for Ontangelo. That would have been interesting.
Here's Lena. Hello, Lena. How are you today? She said, imagine believing in God because evolution is not true. Yeah. I know it doesn't make sense to me, but yeah.
Yeah.
And the problem is that they think that all scientists know every kind of science.
The reason it makes sense to them, and I think this is an interview that Richard Dawkins gave. I think it was either in the UK or in Australia, where he said that the young Earth creationists at least read the Bible the correct way. And I agree with him on that. That's how you easily can explain that if evolution is true, they will lose their faith, because it will no longer you can't have the Bible and evolution at the same time. It doesn't work.
Right.
So
It's just
one is right, and if you can prove that evolution happened, that discredits the Bible.
Right.
So why can't you have the Bible? Why can't you follow the Bible and have evolution?
Well, because
the Bible specifically states that animals were created.
Right.
And
if you follow it literally, right? It's whether
if you follow. Why do you have to take a literal interpretation of the Old Testament?
What other interpretation could you possibly have?
That basically
if it says in Genesis, God created the animals and Adam named them, that means you got fully formed animals and Adam gave them their names. How else can you interpret that? You cannot interpret that with animals coming into being through a process called evolution.
You can just believe. If God created the animals, it doesn't say how he created them. Could have created them by inspiring the universe to exist and to start up with the Big Bang. And then the story about Adam naming the animals could have been just a metaphor for humans acquiring knowledge and naming things. And on from there,
because it can't be. It can't be speed because
Why?
also in Genesis, God says that Adam needs a mate, and then he runs all the animals past Adam to see whether or not one of them is suitable as a mate, and Adam rejects all of them. If you have no evolution, and if you're going to start out, what he's got is a bunch of one-celled organisms to choose from that aren't either plant or animal yet, so he can't run animals past them.
Well,
That's not possible.
My kids are 40 years old now, and they know that Santa Claus, that we made all that up, but they still believe in Christmas. They still give presents, and we have a Christmas tree, and we have dinner, and we have family. We still do. We still celebrate Christmas.
They believe in a social construct, Christmas, which is completely different from the original Christmas, which is a Christian holiday where they literally moved the birth of Jesus to line up with some pagan festival because they wanted to draw in the pagans.
So what is the problem with believing that the Old Testament is a description of the physical creation of the world by God, but still believing in God?
Because there's nothing in the text that would show that that's a metaphor. It is written as a literal account.
Well, maybe back then.
I have to agree with people like Ken Ham and Kent Hovind on this. It is a literal account. There's no way you could say, just by reading the text.
No, I would talk to a few.
No way you
Jewish
could
people.
say that that's a metaphor.
I would talk to a few Jewish scholars and people, and even Catholics about all of that, and find out just how much of it needs to be literal. I mean, how else would it have been written back then? If you're gonna write a story, you're gonna write a long dialogue about the creation of the universe. You sure as fuck aren't going to talk about quantum mechanics. And the people that wrote the Bible were very, wise people who knew God through whatever means people know God, and they wrote a story as they saw it from their particular perspective, and none of that says that God doesn't exist.
And that's where you are wrong, because the Bible claims that the Bible is inspired by God. So the humans didn't write it. God wrote it.
So
if God wrote it, and if God knew that he was going to use evolution, he would have found a way to explain it to the people back in the day how it worked.
Okay, so if I inspired a toddler or a 5-year-old to write a story about how the universe began, and I inspired this toddler to do it, do you think the toddler would be talking about evolution?
You're leaving one thing out.
Which part?
You would inspire the toddler to write something knowing that there would come a time when people would read that story knowing more about the universe and how we got here, and it should line up.
Yeah, and if you have faith in God,
God is omniscient. God is omniscient. So he knows the moment he is inspiring people to write the Bible, he already knows that there's going to be a time when people are going to question this, and rightfully so, because it contradicts with what is in the Bible. Well, if he had known that, and he really wanted everyone to be saved, he would have written a different story so that evolution would fit in there, the Big Bang would fit in there, everything would fit.
No, if he had thought that way and he didn't want people to doubt, then he would have made all human beings solid rock with internal mechanisms that magically made them do what they do. He never would have made blood and guts. He never would have made plant cells or any of the science stuff.
No,
I mean, if he didn't want us to know,
against the Bible, that goes against the Bible as well, because solid rocks don't worship God, and God wants to be worshipped.
Oh no, he would have made us of some solid, godly substance, basically, and
yeah, but if you have no brain, no self, no freedom of choice, then the worship isn't worship. It's just a programmed
No,
action.
okay.
It's not
What I'm
worship.
saying, Peter, you're saying that he wouldn't have written it that way, knowing that people were going to figure out that it was a metaphor. Okay, and I'm saying that okay, if he was all worried about that, then he would have created, monkeys and animals and everything, with guts and internal organs. But humans would have been of this fine silver substance that you couldn't cut in half, and there were no guts, and there were no internal organs, and there were no cells. We were just creatures like special gods, special creatures, right?
Yeah. If we were a special creation, we wouldn't have that much similarities with the great apes.
Yeah, and he could have done it that way, right? So
yeah, he could.
He could. But instead he chose to do it, and leave a little bit of. He chose to do it in a poetic manner by creating us out of, the Big Bang, basically, with evolution.
Yeah, but that's not what the Bible says.
And out of primates, and Adam and Eve were probably a figment of the imagination. It was just a metaphor.
He could have created us that way, but then the Bible should have been different.
You see, you're thinking like a literalist. And I don't think the writers of the big.
I'm not thinking like a literalist. I'm thinking like a young Earth creationist. This is why I watch young Earth creationist videos. If you don't know how they think, there's no way on planet Earth that you're going to convince them that they're wrong.
Well, yeah, I know how they think, but not every Christian is obligated to think that way. I mean,
and they want to think that they know the mind of God.
But they pose the biggest threat to education.
That's correct. They're committing the heresy, the blasphemous heresy of thinking that they know how God did, that they know the mind of God. And where the person who is truly a Christian and truly had faith would say that it's all a mystery, and what was written in the book is still a mystery, and we don't know God. We don't know God. And the young Earth creationists, they think they know. In fact, they know God so much better than their fellow human beings that they can criticize them. So they're fucking heretics and blasphemers. They're not real true Christians at all. True Christian would just have faith and know that there's a God and not question all this bullshit about how it happened. And they would go along with all science. So that is a true Christian. Okay, the young Earth creationists are a special group of people that want to make everybody else their bitches, their others.
I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. But still, you have to keep in mind the young Earth creationists are the biggest threat to education, and so they are the ones that you need to counter, and they are the ones that you need to prove wrong. And in order to do that, you have to adopt their way of thinking.
Well, in order to prove them wrong, they're going to have to start to reason, and they're not going to do that without a hit upside the head. How do you start a young Earth creationism on the road to reason? I'm not entirely sure. If he's young and if he's been indoctrinated in it, yeah, then it's possible. But the ones that have come through and basically decided that they know more.
I disagree with you that they have to reason. All you need to do is adopt their way of thinking and cause doubts in the people who follow them.
Yeah.
You're not going to change the mind of Ken Ham, Kent Hovind, Sal Cordova, Otangelo. You're not going to change their mind.
How are you going to change their mind?
You might not even be able to change Rebecca's mind. But these people have a following that isn't that invested, a following that isn't that well read. And if you can go into their way of thinking and then provide ways for them to check out whether or not what you're saying is actually true, then you're going to convert people.
Well, there's a distinction here now. You can change their mind in such a way that they become atheists, or you can change their mind in such a way that they just fucking stop with the bullshit and start accepting science. They don't have to lose their faith to do that. Okay, it's a two-step process.
And that's one of the things that I always say. You do not have to abandon your Christian faith, what I would like you to do is accept valid science.
Yeah, but how are you going to do that if you don't convince them that the Bible could well be a metaphor and they do not know the mind of God? They do not know the methods of God.
If you're going to tell a young Earth, if you're going to tell a young Earth creationist that the Bible is a metaphor, you're going to come across as insulting. That's not what you should do, because that's when you lose about 50% of the young Earth creationists.
I never called God a metaphor. I called basically that they don't know the mind of God. They shouldn't assume that.
I know exactly, and I agree with you. And still, it's not the way a young Earth creationist thinks.
I was just about to almost say the same thing that Leonard just wrote there. Young Earth creationists are actually atheists. Well, something similar to that. I was wondering. I'm wondering, like, chances are, like, you guys are kind of going back and forth. Chances are, like, most young Earth creationists would probably are more likely to convert to atheism.
Yeah, because it's so ridiculous.
To an old Earth. I don't know. I think it seems that way, but it's. I don't know what the numbers are. I'm sure there are some. Of course, there are some that go from old Earth to young Earth, but I wonder if the numbers are higher.
Apologia is a good example.
Right. I wonder if the numbers are higher for them to go from young Earth to an atheist.
I think so.
Versus young Earth to old Earth. Yeah, I think it is.
I think that's why they're shooting themselves in the foot with this bullshit, because they're creating just too high a barrier to faith.
Yep.
They're screwing themselves.
Yeah.
Well,
they've already lined themselves up for either evolution is false and God exists, or evolution is true and God doesn't exist.
Right.
So I think once you can convince a young Earth creationist that evolution is a fact, which it is, they're going to throw away their entire religion and become an atheist.
Right, and I think it's more likely that would happen versus the other step, going to an old Earth.
Yeah, well,
I think the process takes probably around 8 or 9 years to take place, because in 1986 I was undergoing corpsman training for the Navy Reserve, and I remember arguing about creationism with a couple of I don't know if they were atheists, but they were definitely a lot more secular than I was, and knew their science really well. And I knew all the Josh McDowell books about evolution at the time. I didn't know anything about. I don't even know if Kent Hovind was around or who was around, but I had adopted a lot of creationist views. And then when I was in seminary and still a believer, I read a bunch of books about Genesis and creationism and evolution, and I became what you would call your theistic evolutionist. So it took a lot of reading.
So that
I read science and things like that, but it took a lot of reading and stuff like that. But eventually, I did turn around and accept evolution again.
Yeah. Yep. So I think in some ways, there are a lot of people that identify with atheism. Okay, so let me back up to my line of thought when I was thinking about this. Like, my hope would be to convince them of the science, but not take away their faith, right? But in some ways, a lot of atheists have no fucking faith in anything at all, and pretty much worship reason and worship, the reasoning mind. And the reasoning primate mind is, these apes fell out of a fucking coconut tree and started walking upright and chiseling spears. That's where we're at. We're not that fucking great. Yeah, I mean, so reason, bypassing reason, and or stopping at reason and thinking, oh, we're just all rational beings and everything has to be rational. What you're fucking forgetting is that with true naturalism tells you that you are a biological organism that is a part of the world. And there's a great deal of what is important to you that is tied up in you being a biological organism. And that particular thing I call spirituality. But the natural end of naturalism is to understand that in spite of all of what you think, all of the worship of reason that you have, at the end of the day, you have to go to the bathroom and go to bed and eat some food and hug your kids and things like. I mean, there's a whole lot of us that is just pure organism, and that part, I think I would call what Christians have as faith in God. The Christians that aren't idiots, the what did I say, idiot? The ones that actually understand the faith, basically. And there's a bridge there between naturalism and religion that is not a very long bridge. It's not too big. The gap is not that big to saying, okay, I just believe in God and I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to sit and overthink it, and I'm going to live my life and I'm going to embrace my values, right? And that would be a strong faith.
Everything you said there made me cringe.
Yep, I guess it would, because because the
because
new atheist, and that's why new
first of all-
atheists are under fire.
No, first of all, I have no clue what worship is. I've never worshipped anything in my entire life,
Oh my God,
nor
Peter.
would I ever after having the concept explained. I've
Swedish
also
girls.
never had faith in anything.
I have seen some
Never.
Swedish girls that I would worship. No,
And-
I've
And I don't know what the fuck spiritual is.
I
And
know,
no one can
I
explain
know.
that to me.
I feel so bad for you guys.
There is no spiritual.
Oh, but there
It
is.
doesn't exist. Spirits are fake.
Okay, Peter,
Like Donald Duck.
I'm going to teach you. Okay, just sit here and go, and keep doing that in your head over and over again until it fills up your entire head. And get up and walk and do something. And that is spirituality. Doing something
That's
without
not
thinking about it.
spirituality.
Yes,
That's
it
not
is.
spirituality. No.
Well, because it doesn't have spirits in it. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about
No,
spirits.
That's a physical trick you play on your brain. Has nothing to do with spirits.
You can't play a trick on your brain.
We
You are
can
your
explain
brain, for
that.
fuck's
There's
sake.
no spirits involved. We can
Peter, you're not smart enough to play a trick on your own brain.
we can it's like telling me to look at a black and white picture on my screen and then look at a white wall and fuck, now I see Jesus. It's not Jesus, it's your eyes. It's
Okay.
explainable. Your eyes will your brain will adjust to the black and white and the brightness of your screen. And when you
Okay.
then look to a white wall, your brain needs some time to readjust. So you will see an inverted image of what you were looking at before. It has nothing to do with spirits.
Let me ask you a question. Can you look at the wall and see the after image without thinking about it?
Yes.
Then you don't know how the brain works, do you?
It has nothing to do with thinking. It has to do with
Yes,
your
you're
brain
right. Spirituality has nothing to
adjusting
do
your
with
eyes.
thinking.
It has nothing to do with thinking. It has to do with your brain adjusting your eyesight and taking a few minutes. If you're changing it from one particular setup, which includes brightness that comes from your screen, to something that doesn't light up.
Are you doing any of that while you're doing it? Okay,
You don't have to. You don't have to. Your brain does that. That is how your brain evolved, and that is how your eyesight works in bright circumstances and in dark circumstances. The only thing is that with the newer technology, where we have light coming off of a screen, our brain hasn't had time to adapt to that yet. It's very possible that in a couple of 100 years, when our brains have been capable to adapt our eyesight, that includes having monitors and TVs that give off light.
I think we've had that problem ever since the sun popped up. But anyway, David, Top Dog, Scott, any of you have any fucking idea what I'm talking about?
Well, spirituality is just like an emotion reaction.
Okay, that's close, yeah. And you other two, you got any idea what I'm talking about?
I'm definitely not spiritual, so
Got a
Well,
lot of work
spirituality
to
to
do.
me is dependent on your. I hate to say worldview because that word gets thrown around a lot, or maybe your religion. It's kind of relative that way. There's no objective sense of spirituality, but I would say I think a lot of the things that people describe have to do with basically putting self on the shelf and just experiencing, experiencing the universe with as little of you getting in the way. And that's about all I know about spirituality.
And
Having
school,
studied it
what
before.
about school spirit? Well, like
Yeah.
somebody says school
Speed.
spirit, it's like a personality to me.
Speed, put up Fekinel's last comment. There you go.
Yeah, I'm not going to.
Yeah,
Let's
see. Why are you not going to? Because that is 100% accurate.
Let's see.
Yeah, that's not the one that
Wonder
I
is a
said.
form
I
of
said,
emotion.
no, Fekinel's last one.
Okay, let's call it.
There you go.
Let's quit calling
you
it
go.
spirituality and call it epifluorescence. Let's call it epifluorescence instead of spirituality.
Let's call it just brain activity. What the fuck is wrong with brain activity? It is
that's
how our brain works.
We don't know anything about brain activity.
How do you separate?
We know
do you
an
know
awful lot about brain
You
activity. This is hold on. The fact that we know is why we have illusionists, why we can do card tricks. We can fuck with your brain because we know how it works, and we know that there are things that your brain will not notice, and that is how illusionists work, and that how a lot of the card tricks work.
Okay.
Well, it's an emotional
we can
reaction you
fool
get
your
from
brain.
those things that trick your brain.
You need to know
we can
anything in
fool
order
your
to.
brain, and the reason we can fool your brain is because we know we can fool your brain because we know how it works and how it can be fooled.
Okay. How much of this do monkeys know?
We don't know their language,
that
so
is
we don't
moving,
know.
That is moving the goalpost
Oh,
because
no. I'm trying to teach you
hold
something.
on. That is moving the goalpost because, and I'll give you an example. Pareidolia is something that we still have. Pareidolia is also something that is that monkeys have.
Yeah.
And for monkeys and apes, it can be life-saving. If you see something that looks like a lion in the grass and you get the fuck out there, you survive, whether or not it's a lion or not.
But do you think
you
monkeys
don't see that?
Do you think a monkey can be conscious of a tree? Look at a tree and be conscious of the tree. See the green, the leaves, the trunk, all of it. Do you think a monkey can be conscious of a tree?
I think a monkey is conscious of a tree because in order to climb there at night and feel safe, you have to know what it is.
Okay. Do you think you can be conscious of a tree? Look at a tree and be conscious of a tree.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you see a mode of operation for humans where you don't know anything about trees, or you don't think about trees, or you don't know anything about chlorophyll or roots or anything, and you just look at a tree, and in that way you're like a monkey looking at a tree, right? Do you agree that
is how you grow up as a kid? You don't know anything about chlorophyll. You see a tree and you see leaves and you see branches and you know, hey, I can climb up there. And then you get a little bit older and you think, I can build a tree house. I can take some planks and basically make a nest. What some of
but you have to have an experience. It's the experience that you have to know anything.
Oh, I made a tree house without any experience, and it fell down.
Do you remember how fun it was to be a kid?
Yeah. Which is why I like hanging out with kids and pretending I know nothing that I actually know and just go down to their level and fuck up.
That's because you had a higher degree of spirituality when you were a kid and you lost something.
It's not spirituality. It is education.
Oh no, we'll call it
Knowledge.
You had a higher
Nothing to do
level
with
of
spirits.
efflorescence.
Has nothing to do with spirits. It has to do with education, and it has to do with knowledge, and it has to do with learning.
So
There are no
you got
spirits
educated.
involved.
About experience. It's experience that we understand.
Yeah, and experience
about things. But
experience
if we don't get the
also
right
has nothing to
experience,
do-
though.
So
Yeah,
you got
and
educated,
experience has
so you could
nothing
have
to
less
do
fun,
with
Peter.
spirits either.
Peter,
Again,
did you become educated so that you could have less fun? Like-
depends. So there are things that are a lot more fun if you're not educated. There are also things that are a lot more fun when you are educated. So
Well, yeah.
it's a win-win situation.
So you can look at the tree just like a primate or a child looks at a tree. And then you're in touch with the epifluorescence of the universe, which is what I named it. And you're in touch with it. And now you add to that. Okay, now you're just sitting there for a while and your mind is
What the
idle.
fuck is epifluorescence of the universe?
It's what I chose to call spirituality, because spirituality is obviously getting you guys off track. Because you guys don't understand words.
You're worse than Otangelo. You just rename things. You just rename things and then pretend that they're real. That's not how this works.
You don't know how words work, right? Okay,
Yeah,
words work like
I do
this.
know how words work, and I know that if you're going to redefine a word, it's not going to make anything different.
Oh, but they fucking do it all the time in marketing. They come up with a new with a new kind of sound.
Because we know how people can be fooled, and that's what you're doing right now. Fooling yourself.
Fooled. No, you're being fooled because you don't understand what I'm talking about. Okay, that's what's fooling you.
That's what's my fucking job.
You're being fooled by
marketing.
You're being fooled.
Marketing.
Okay,
What's part of my fucking job?
Okay, obviously,
people.
Obviously, the word spirituality triggers all you new atheists. So
yeah, it triggers me because it's
call it epifluorescence.
It's fucking useless, and it is as real as Donald Duck. And if you want to have an educational channel, grow the fuck up and leave that behind.
Let me call it fucky fluorescence. I'll call it fucky for fluorescence.
Why don't you call it what it actually is?
Well, obviously you don't like spirituality, so fucky fluorescence.
No.
Because I'm not talking about the same. Okay.
The epifluorescence of the universe. What the fuck does that even mean?
Well,
hey, Peter, what is your definition of spirituality? What definition are you using? Anyway?
Yeah, what are you using? What does it mean? What is?
I don't know, because ever since when I encountered spirituality, that was after I got on social media. So that was after 2015. Ever since, everyone who uses the word, I have asked, what is spiritual? And none of them can give me a decent definition that actually fits. It seems to be something. It seems to be something supernatural, non-material.
Okay.
I don't get it.
Wrong.
Yeah, see,
it's like saying divine.
Hey, Peter, let me tell you again.
You made up a whole new definition. You're like Ken Ham. I got this, and I'm going to call it that, and now it sounds profound, and it looks like something, so therefore it's real. That's not how that works.
It's more that the people that use it, they confuse it with emotions and personality.
Okay, I didn't make it up, Peter. I learned about it through.
You just said that's.
Why are you over talking me, Peter? I'm going to pull a Dark Hawkins on you. How old are you? How old are you, Peter? God damn it. Okay.
Well, you could still be my granddad.
Have you asked me? Have you asked me?
Hawkins? You're closer to being senile than I am.
You're talking. Have you asked me what my definition or what spirituality is? Have you asked me that question?
Yes.
When?
Just now.
And I answered you. Did you hear my answer?
Yeah. Yes. you came up with, and now I forgot it. I tried to remember it. The
Being a human, being what you are,
epifluorescence of the universe.
being what you are without thinking, without running through a cognitive stepwise thinking process. Okay, I'm sitting here on my chair. Now I could get up and start stepping across the room, one step after another, right? Or do some motor function that involves a sequence of steps. Okay, that is what thinking is in the brain. Thinking is an exaptation of the mechanism you use to move, to walk. Okay, we know that much about neuroscience, right? Okay, so I can sit here and not get up and walk across the room. In the same manner, I can sit here and not think. Spirituality is sitting here and not thinking. It's that fucking
imagination.
I disagree, because if you're just sitting there, there's still a lot going on in your body. For one, your heart is working.
But I'm not thinking. And that's what I'm talking about.
There's subconscious.
There is something. Yeah, there is some part of your consciousness that keeps your heart beating, that keeps you breathing, because otherwise you would fucking die.
Yeah,
so I got a question.
Spirituality.
I got a question. So when you get to that state, right? When you get to that state, right? When you get to that state, you're saying not thinking. Then what's the next step, or is there a step, or
if your brain stops thinking, that is what we call brain death, and that is irretrievable. That's when you're gone.
You got to look more into what thinking really is. Cogitating, thinking. I don't understand why this isn't common knowledge for the modern man, but apparently we got a lot of work to do. But anyway,
what's the difference? What's the difference between conscious thinking and unconscious thinking?
There is no such thing as the unconscious.
That don't make any sense.
If I try to hit you,
did you say
you will respond in a reaction that prevents me from hitting you. You do not have to think about that.
You have to.
That is almost instantaneously.
Right, which is exactly what I'm talking about. Top Dog, did you say that didn't make any sense?
Yeah, because we do things without knowing about it all the time. Our conscious part is like the memory and stuff that we control in a sense.
Let me rephrase that for you.
We think we have control. It's like an illusion of control.
Let me rephrase for you. What you should have said is that doesn't make any sense to me. Okay. Because I have a whole big dialogue I can back that shit up with. But anyway.
So what is conscious then?
I'm with Top Dog. It doesn't make any sense. Period. Not to me.
To you.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
No.
No such thing as the unconscious. You're conscious of everything that's happening to you.
So what is conscious thing?
Okay. If we were to, let's see, if we
You're
were
not conscious of everything that is happening to you. I just told you that I can do a card trick. And something will be happening to you. You will have no fucking idea what is happening to you.
Yeah.
Even though you're conscious, you're watching it, you're thinking about it, and you still don't know.
That's where you get to intention with an S and extension with a T. Basically, it's the difference between intentional and intentional.
The reason you don't know, while consciously thinking about it, is because unconsciously you already accepted the things you see.
I get a question.
Now you're thinking about how you struggle with what you see, and knowing that what you see isn't possible.
All right. So Speed, so you say you're conscious about everything that your body's experiencing, right? Can you be conscious of, like, obviously, you can be conscious of your lungs, of you breathing, right? You feel that, right? And you're conscious of your heartbeat because you can hear that, you can feel it, whatever. But what about like something like your kidneys? I mean, you're using, you have to use the facilities. I guess that's part of that. But there's got to be certain parts of your body that you're not really like.
Okay,
you're
imagine
not really conscious that you're kidneys working or your liver is actually working, or
Imagine,
I don't know. That's my question. Anyway.
Imagine taking a pure red area pigment, right? And then on the right hand side and on the left hand side, you have a pure yellow. Okay. And the pure yellow is basically the things outside that are happening right now that I don't know about at all. You know, things that are far away from me. They're pure yellow, pure dead to me. Okay. And then the things that are orange are the things that I'm thinking about right now. I'm looking at the blue with David on it, you know, on StreamYard, and I'm calling that out. And that's pure yellow because I'm highly, highly not only conscious of it, but I'm looking at it continuously. Okay. And blend those two things together. Where does the yellow or the red become orange? Or where does the red turn into yellow? When you blend those two things together on a gradient. That's how consciousness works. There is no unconscious in there. You could arbitrarily choose a point 100 feet outside in the woods from me and say, yeah, okay, we can call that unconscious, but you're doing it arbitrarily. There's a gradient.
I got a good example for you. How much time a day on average do you spend thinking about not shitting on the floor or in your pants?
Oh, fuck. At 70, I'm telling you, that occupies pretty much all of you.
Yeah. I knew that was coming.
So it's the subconscious is in control of that stuff.
Yeah,
but
your subconscious is in control. And your subconscious will tell you, hey, I need to take a shit, so I need to walk to the bathroom. But if there's no bathroom available, you can just put that aside, and your subconscious will still deal with that until there's a bathroom.
Okay.
And you can consciously clinch to make it so you don't go if it tries to.
Exactly.
Do you think awareness
until you start prairie dogging, and then all is lost.
Do you think awareness is the same as consciousness? Do you think the word
this is, and now it's turning into semantics, because when we were talking about conscious thinking and something that
neuroscience terms. Okay.
Hold
awareness
on.
And
if we were, and you're talking to layman, if we're talking about something that your brain does consciously and something that your brain does unconsciously, you do not have to think about changing the lens in your eye in order to see something in the distance as opposed to something close up. There's no thinking involved, except your brain does the thinking for you because it happens.
Yeah, you don't have to think about saccades when you look at a face either, but your eye is.
And that is the unconscious. That is the unconscious thinking part of your brain. It has nothing to do with spirits. It's not spiritual. It's not supernatural. This is one of my pet peeves.
Well, unconscious is usually like the physics and the chemical reactions.
Yeah, that's why guys like you call. Go ahead.
I was saying that the subconscious is in control of doing a lot of the actions that we're consciously not aware of. But then there's also the unconscious, which is the physics and the chemical reactions.
And also, Speed, the reason that I'm worked up right now is because this is you showing that you have no clue how a young earth creationist thinks. Because the moment you put up the possibility of spirituality, you're validating their God belief.
We can't
immediately.
Give them an hint. I don't think you have any idea how compromise works.
You have to define terms. There are things that are real and there are things that are not real. Spirituality is not real. It's woo. And you can use the word and it can make you feel comfortable, but it is still woo. And you're moving over into the woo part, where it's completely unnecessary to do so.
Or I'm being
spirituality is more like spirituality is like an all-encompassing thing, like mind.
No, the problem with
multiple
the mind isn't spiritual. The problem
with you, Peter, is that you're so religious. You're still religious.
Saying like
and
we
you
use the
can't get over
word.
it.
Then what does spiritual mean? Is it natural? Is it
Personality and
material?
emotions.
I've told you over and over again. It's
No.
being
I
without
asked the
thinking.
specific question. Is it natural and is it material or is it immaterial?
It's definitely physical. Material is a bad word. Physical. It's all
Okay, physical.
It's all physical.
Okay.
It's all
So
I mean, didn't you know that from the start? What I'm a strict naturalist and a hard atheist.
Spiritual comes from the word spirit. So what the fuck is a spirit then?
Breathing. It comes from the word breathing. Breathing out, breathing air, breathing in, breathing out. That's spirit. It's wind. It's movement. Basically, spirit.
So why not
call it? So why
spirit
not
is what
call
they
it
used to
wind?
think happened. Okay, when the
Okay,
wind.
so why not?
Hang on a second,
why
Peter. Will you let me fucking finish? When the wind blew something off the tables, people thought that was spirit. Okay, that's spirit. And they also breathed air out and breathed it in. They called it spirit. It means air. It means breathe.
Yeah,
that's what spirit's original meaning was.
It used to mean. It used to mean air.
And I'm
Yeah.
It used to mean
I'm
breathe
gonna come
until
down to
we
those
found
fucking
out.
Christians.
Until we found out. No, hold on. Until we found out what it actually is. And so now we can drop the spiritual and call it what it is.
Yeah, and
the efflorescence. Got the fluorescence.
Yeah.
And every time I take a breath,
space.
It's fucky fluorescence now. But every time I take a breath, I just think, oh, there's some oxygen molecules coming into my mouth, and they're flowing past my lips and down my throat, and they're going into my lungs, and they're inflating my lungs, and then they're combining with the epithelial tissue, and they're being absorbed. No, you don't fucking do that. That's not spirituality. Okay, I'm one of those fucking spiritual atheists, but we're going to shoot her in the head pretty quick.
What about
I wanted to show you this picture.
Yeah.
That's what happens to your eyes every time you run into a face. Except this is kind of a bad picture. I've seen better ones. Normally, you scan like the lips, the nose, and one of the eyes, and then you say, that's Peter, and then you then you immediately remove them from the stream. but your eyes do that within like I think less than half a second. They do this saccadic movement, and that's how you see everything basically, and that's why we often make mistakes. But that's why your brain works. But it's really.
And how long do you think about that before you do it?
Yeah, soul seems to do with things we don't control, such as emotional feelings. That's sort of like it, yeah.
Unconscious thinking.
How about essence? That seems kind of weird
to
me.
Wait, Speed. If you believe in a soul, then does that mean you're a dualist?
No.
Well, then how can the soul
believes
exist?
in a soul.
I believe in the physical nature of spirituality and soul, and I call it fucky fluorescence. But midnight's here. We're going to shoot in the head.
Well, tomorrow is Thanksgiving, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, what are you thankful for? It's a turkey.
I'm thankful for my 2 grandsons.
Oh shit! Wow.
I'll tell you what I'm grateful for.
Is there going to be a show tomorrow, Speed?
Probably not. Are you grateful for that?
Well,
I'm thankful for the fact that we're going to have a day without an atheist talking about spirituality. There.
One of those fucking spiritual atheists. Gotta hate them. I just hate spiritual atheists.
Man. What you're doing is the same thing that people are doing with faith. The Christians are doing with faith. Atheists have faith. Fuck, damn it. I do not have faith. Because
I have tremendous faith, Peter. I have faith constantly.
Your faith, your Christian faith, is belief without evidence and against all evidence. That's not the faith that I have. So why not use the word that is more correct, which is trust. You trust in evidence.
New atheist.
And that is the second definition of faith.
Boy, I have my work cut out for me. I can see that. You guys are
I have faith
so-
that
yeah.
tomorrow evening I will be saying, "Woo boy, I ate too much."
Yeah. I don't think we're going to do it tomorrow because I don't think anybody should be listening tomorrow. And but we are not
Why
doing
not?
anything.
What are you, a Christian?
We're not doing anything for Thanksgiving tomorrow at all. We're doing ours on Saturday, and Saturday we're not having it either. So, Saturday we don't.
You're celebrating a holiday of a group of people who were so fucked up being a Christian that the Christians in their country thought that it was time for them to move to a different continent.
I'm celebrating the
And-
death of 3 turkeys. I'm doing homage to the spirit nature of the turkey that died for me to live, that I may breathe and live. I have great faith that those fucking turkeys are going to be really juicy and buttery. Have faith, Peter. Have faith. Join our turkey religion.
I'm not going to have. I'm an epistivist. I reject faith as the most dishonest position to hold.
Yeah, because you redefined it as what
I
belief
didn't
without evidence.
redefine it. No, I didn't redefine it. I don't have faith. There's nothing that I take on faith. I do take things on trust, and sometimes I put my trust in the wrong people, but then it's still trust. It's still based on previous evidence. And you can still go wrong with people based on previous evidence.
Yeah, but you seem to have a lot of faith.
Nothing to do with faith.
Oxygen. You have a lot of faith in
nothing
oxygen
to do with
right
faith.
now.
I don't have faith in oxygen.
Well, you're breathing. You haven't checked it, have you?
Yes,
have you checked that oxygen?
Because all of the evidence and through my entire life points to the fact that if I keep breathing, I stay alive, and if I stop breathing, then I'm going to feel uncomfortable.
I think I figured out why you guys don't like Sam.
On evidence. That's not based on faith. That's based on cold, hard evidence. So it is trust.
And did you have that evidence when you were breathing as a 1-year-old?
Oh my fucking God, Speedy!
I
Just
did
shoot
have.
in the
I
fucking head.
could have had that evidence, but I probably wouldn't have known the whole mechanics that are about it. But if I'm 1-year-old, and if I have the consciousness to stop breathing, I will feel uncomfortable, and I will make sure that I'm not going to try that again.
But you kept breathing on pure faith, so you were a religious nutcase when you were 1 year old.
Stephanie Trenton says, Peter, have you ever hoped for something to happen? That is self-faith. No. You can hope for something to happen. I would call that a dream or a wish. It has nothing to do with faith, because I'm not certain that it's going to happen unless I've got evidence that it might happen.
So I think I figured out why atheists hate Sam Harris. A lot of atheists don't like Sam Harris.
Hey, speak for yourself.
Yeah, I like Sam.
Spiritual.
Yeah, because he understands spirituality in a different way.
Yeah,
and like I came to an understanding of faith when I was 16 years old as being the exact polar opposite of belief. So defining faith as belief in something without evidence doesn't make any fucking sense, because faith is the polar opposite of belief.
How so?
Speed, are you feeling all right today?
Yeah, I'm having.
How is faith the opposite of belief?
You know what I'm doing, Midnight? I'm cutting out the work that I have to do in order to express the things that I believe in.
Don't avoid the question. How is faith the opposite of belief?
Belief is believing in something, right? And then acting toward it, in some manner, having some intention toward that thing that you believe in, that you believe that something's happening. Faith is that action without any thought at all, without any belief at all. Faith is the exact opposite of belief.
At least when it comes to religious faith, I disagree.
In order
to believe something, do you have to be convinced that it is true what you believe?
Peter, you told me in order to fight with these these young Earth creationists, I have to understand how they think, and I can
Which
tell
is
you
why
the
I'm
same
asking
thing.
you this question.
I can tell you the same thing, that in order to have a conversation with a believer or a Christian, in order to move their minds a little bit, you're going to have to understand what faith really is, and it fucking has fuck all to do with belief in something without evidence. That's not what faith is.
That is literal. I'm talking about how faith is described in the Bible. That is faith.
But yeah, those
It
fuckers
is- it
probably
is-
didn't know
it-
what they were talking about either.
It is described in the Bible in the Old Testament, and Jesus reaffirms it.
Okay, give me a verse.
The
The belief without seeing.
it
The
is
part
it
where
is
after
it is
he's resurrected, wasn't it?
it is 1:11, and I forgot the it's
Those who believe without seeing.
Speed, do you have to
Yeah.
meditate to get to the point of not thinking?
I've had to work with it a little bit, yeah, in order to learn how to do it. In order to learn how to do it on demand, but it turns out I knew how to do it all along. It's just that it's difficult to do it on demand. So
Yeah, well,
that's what meditation is
It's for,
teaching
right? Yeah,
yourself
to
how
get-
to do it on demand.
Right. Yeah.
What the fuck is this shit? I'm trying to find biblical verses about faith. And I clicked on a site and I saw a bunch of
Hebrews 11.
kids at the beach. What the fuck is that shit about?
I think it was Hebrews 1:11.
Yeah, that
Bible verses about welcome to faith outreach.
Nerdy Rodent has put it in the side chat, and there it is on the screen. That's the one that
Hebrews
Paul.
11.
Actually, I can say Paul, the writer of Hebrews,
Yeah,
wrote
this is,
in Hebrews 11:1.
It's the other way around. It's 11:1. Yeah.
this is why I don't like
I like
Christianity.
Stephanie's last comment. Peter's just a
Faith
heathen.
is-
He's just a
Faith
heathen.
is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see.
Peter
That's
is-
one of the definitions.
You're just a
Yeah,
heathen.
that's close.
It's not
Being-
close. It's literally what is in the Bible.
Being sure of what we hope for.
Faith
Evidence of
is
things hoped for.
Wishful
faith
thinking.
is the faith
Why
is
in
the
the
assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not being seen.
Why
That
in the fuck
is
do I have to-
literally accepting things without evidence and against all evidence.
Why do these
That is
buttfuck Christians
That is
not?
what Christian faith is. And Jesus reaffirms that later on in the Bible. And he says, bless them who have faith without having seen. That means that you have to be convinced without evidence. That is religious faith. That
It's
is the
just called
faith that I
make-believe.
reject. And
Have you
that
ever-
You make
is
yourself
why I
believe.
think, and that is why I think the word faith should be avoided, because the second definition of faith is trust. And if the second definition
wait,
of
now
faith is trust, then why not use the word trust, which is believing something because of evidence?
So you're going to
Well,
let
it's
the
not just
Christians?
trust, though.
You're all going to let the Christians tell you how to think and how to use your words and how to define words.
No, I'm
Is that what
not.
I'm hearing?
No, it's not that. It is
So why are we
making
looking at the
sure.
Bible? Why are we looking at the Bible for a definition of faith?
If you let me finish, I will tell you. If we do not use the word faith, then we can't have the fact that we with faith mean trust, and they with faith mean believing something without evidence. And if we say that we have faith in the fact that an airplane will stay up, you could say that because you could go to the second definition, trust based on evidence. And
you
that
don't know the physics
they
that
will
hold it up.
automatically start thinking, then okay, then faith is a good reason, a good pathway to truth. So we can have faith that God exists, even if we don't have evidence, we can still accept the fact that he exists. And that is why it's not that we have to let Christians dictate what words mean, but if we want to have a good conversation and we can avoid the fact that what we're saying and they're hearing something completely different, if we can avoid that, we can have a better conversation and we can pinpoint the problems better.
Okay, I want to say something before you go, Speed. You're both beautiful ladies. Let's shoot us in the head. There you go.
Okay. So did you tell me again what you think Hebrews 11:1 says?
Hebrews 11:1 says, literally, and I'll read it again for you, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So faith is evidence of things that you have never seen.
Okay, have you ever scratched your head?
That is make-believe.
Have you ever scratched your head?
Yeah.
Can you see your head on top of your head?
Yeah.
You can see it.
Yeah.
You have other senses other than visual.
You can actually see the top of your head.
No, yeah. You
Okay.
can't.
No, I can't. I'm not a snake.
I've got, first of all,
You have an imagination from your senses.
Snake can't even do
First
that.
of all, I've got this brilliant thing on top of my monitor, which is called a webcam. I can move that thing around. I can hold it over my head, and I can literally look at the top of my head in real time. It gets worse. I can hold it behind me and look at the back of my head in real time. And even before I had a webcam, I could do that.
I bet you can look at your ass
with
too,
these
right?
magical things called mirrors.
So if your head itches in the night, you get up and turn your webcam on before you.
I don't have to get up in the middle of the night to look at my head. I know where it is.
Okay. You have faith.
I don't have faith because I can reach up with my arm and I can
If you
feel it.
scratch your head,
I
you
can
have faith.
literally, I can
Okay.
touch it, so I
Okay,
know
let's-
it's there.
Let's have the same conversation. Have you ever scratched your ass? And do you have your
Yes,
webcam?
because
Do you
I
use
know
your
my
webcam
ass
for
is-
that?
Hold on. I know my
Hey, I
ass
brought that up.
exists, and I
you
know,
did,
and
David?
Yeah.
because of several
Nobody
experiments
listens
that
to
I
me,
can do to come to the conclusion that my ass exists.
It's hard to listen to David when Peter's in the room.
I know. I
Yeah.
tried to say. I bet you can look at your ass with that camera too, but nobody
Yeah.
heard me.
I think we got to shoot in the head. Now.
I can, David.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can.
I know.
Yeah.
It's not a
shoot in
pretty
the head.
sight, but I can.
Yeah.
Stay curious.
Okay, kids, we're shooting in the head.
Hold on. One thing I need to say. Speed.
That ain't the only thing.
I'm going to post a link in the private chat here, and I want you to pull up that link because I have to make a comment about that link.
For
There
the
you
public, oh God.
It is an upcoming debate that has been postponed 6 times so far
Oh my God.
because of reasons. It's something that I'm really desperate because I want to see that. I need that in my life. It's the debate between Amy Newman and Gavin Hurleyman. Can you please pull up that link on screen?
When is that happening?
Okay.
It got canceled before, right?
Yeah, it got canceled 6 times.
Oh, that many times,
So-
really? Oh, I didn't know that.
What we're looking at is we see Amy, we see Gavin, and then we see some
What
creep
is
in the
that?
middle. First of
Detective.
all, I want to know. Hold on. I want to know who the creep in the middle is and why he has a gaping asshole for a mouth.
I know.
That be praise?
Is
Yeah, it looks like praise.
whose channel is it?
It would be a great depiction of what we think of praise.
Yeah.
Whose channel is this on?
a
Praise.
really surprised guy that is looking at everything and has a gaping asshole for a mouth. That's
Yeah.
pretty much how I see praise.
Yeah.
Okay. We're shooting it in the head now.
Nerdy Rodent
Again?
said we should all scratch something. We should all scratch our ass, and then right now, and then we'll all have faith.
Yeah.
I'm scratching my cat. I can't see him because I'm trying to find the. Oh yeah, I found it.
So how do you know you're scratching your cat if you can't see him?
I have faith. Goodbye, cruel world.